From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, March the 14th, 2022. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett spoke over the phone once again on Saturday night with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Bennett's office said the conversation, which lasted for over an hour, dealt with ways to stop the fighting in Ukraine and the efforts that Israel is making on the matter. Israel's Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, meanwhile, is discussing the matter in Romania and Slovakia. Lapid was in Bucharest yesterday, meeting with his Romanian counterpart Bogdan Ariescu, as well as with Romanian Prime Minister Nicolae Ciucă. Lapid also toured one of the Jewish agency's refugee centers in the area and visited the Siret border crossing between Romania and Ukraine, where he noted the help and cooperation of the Romanian government, including with Jewish children from an orphanage in Odessa, children with cancer, Lapid wrote, who have been sent to Israel for treatment, and thousands of refugees that have escaped through the Siret crossing. Their lives have been saved, he wrote, by the cooperation between us. Lapid said of Israel in regards to the continued refugee crisis, we will not close our gates and our hearts to people who have lost everything. We have a moral obligation to be part of the international effort to help refugees from Ukraine find a warm home and a bed to sleep in. It is our duty to not only be good Jews, but also good people. Today, Lapid met with his Slovak counterpart, Ivan Korchuk, in Bratislava, where the two discussed continuing cooperation at Slovakia's border with Ukraine. Lapid said Israel, like Slovakia, condemns the Russian invasion of Ukraine and calls for an end to the fighting. There is no justification, he said, for violating Ukraine's territorial integrity, and there is no justification for attacks on a civilian population. This war must end, adding that Israel will do everything it can to assist mediation efforts to stop the shooting and restore peace. We are working together with our greatest ally, the United States, and our European friends to prevent the continuation of this tragedy. A top advisor to President Zelensky welcomed Israel's continued efforts to help bring a resolution to the crisis. Andrei Yermak said Israel undertook the difficult but noble mission of mediating the search for peace and ending Russia's aggression against us. He wrote, we also have an intensive dialogue with it on its participation in humanitarian issues, mentioning an easing of Israel's initial limits on refugees announced this weekend. And Zelensky advisor Oleksiy Aristovich told Ynet that there was more discussion about Israel possibly hosting talks between Ukraine and Russia in Jerusalem. And with reports recently of Ukraine feeling that Israel could be doing more, he told Ynet today, we feel that the Israelis are more involved and we very much appreciate that effort. The Times of Israel reports that Israel's cabinet also approved the establishment of a field hospital in western Ukraine. The project will be called Kochav Meir, in honor of the late Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir, who was from Ukraine. Well, 19 rabbis from the New York area just arrived this weekend at Ukraine's border with Poland to distribute food and medical supplies that have been collected to refugees and to gain a deeper understanding of the crisis. The mission is organized by the UJA Federation of New York. The rabbis hail from New York City, Long Island, and Westchester, including Rabbi Menachem Creditor, who tweeted yesterday upon arrival in Warsaw, we've brought emergency humanitarian medical supplies to support Ukrainian refugees. We've brought our worried, broken hearts. Hinenu, we are here. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, March the 14th. At 7 o'clock, Blue Greenberg and David Bigman talk about the agunah crisis, women who are refused a Jewish divorce by their husbands. At 7:30, director Yair Qedar joins Eric Goldman to discuss his film, The Last Chapter of A.B. Yehoshua. At 8, Representative Jamie Raskin discusses his book, Unthinkable, Trauma, Truth, and the Trials of American Democracy, which chronicles the January 6th insurrection, among other issues. That's with Abby Pogrebin. At 9 tonight, Mark Golub sits down with Mark Angel on L'chaim. At 10, it's Jewish humor from the 92nd Street Y. And coming up next, I speak with Dorit Nitzan of the Israeli humanitarian relief organization NATAN, who is on the ground on the Ukraine border with Poland, and with Ariel Zwang, CEO of the JDC, who just returned from the same area, for an up-close and personal look at the refugee crisis. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, March the 14th, 2022. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well.